Hello, everybody. This is John Jay, College of Criminal Justice. This is Dean Morote from Graduate Studies, and we are so happy today because we are with our favorite professor of Masters in Public Administration and Director, Professor Lu, and one of our distinguished alumnus, Jamal Lopez. So I would like to introduce them because I'm so excited about their big resume, and I have to tell them in few words. Professor Elaine Lu, is editor and director in the Department of Public Management at John Jay College. This year marks the 20 year of involvement. 20 years, Professor, you look so young for being 20 years, but the time flies in involvement in the field of public policy and administration. Her primary field of study is fiscal policy and performance accountability. She has published in many peer-reviewed articles and recently have a new book called Performance Budgeting, Principles and Practice, which is published for Taylor and Francis. Hello, Professor. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Matthew.
So we are so excited to have you here because all your expertise and all the things that you're giving to our students is a lot. You know, you're teaching them several things that which is very important in public policy and in budgeting. So I would like you to give us a little overview what this Master on Public Administration has on John Jay.
Sure. Thank you for the question. We at John Jay, we have two MPA programs, and one of them is the one that I direct called Public Policy and Administration. We call PPA programs. And its mission is to equip future public servants with the knowledge, skills, and the leadership experiences necessary to advance four unique values. One is integrity, accountability, inclusiveness, and the justice in society and the governance. And you may, as you may know, one of the things John Jay has been very proud of is the fact that we celebrate diversity of our students, faculty members, including those underrepresented in the leadership of public services. So we are very proud to move people forward.
Wow. So that's very cool. You know, all this information about diversity, inclusion. Jamal Lopez, one of our alumni, he probably will tell us even more because he doesn't only live that in the masters, but now it's part of his job. Jamal Lopez is a human resource management professional that collaborates with internal institutional partners and those at Cornell, Ithaca, at NYP to advance efforts on equity, inclusion, and respect. He serves as an institutional expert on matters of prohibited discrimination, bias, and harassment, and actively works to educate WCM community on these matters. So, Jamal, please, this is so amazing, all the things that you do. I assume you learn for life, but also part of the masters. How do you capture all this knowledge in the masters and now put this in this new position?
Sure. So, thank you so much for having me. While I was a student, at John Jay in the MPA program, my concentration was human resource, definitely, related. And I took an opportunity to take as many HR related classes as I pursued my master's degree as possible. And one thing that it opened up for me was the idea that in addition to, criminal justice, there's also the field of human resources that has a daily interaction with people and deals with people on that human kind of level. And we spend so much time at work, but I learned that there was the opportunity to do investigations. I learned that there was an opportunity at that time, we're talking about 20 years ago. So the field was more so affirmative action, compliance driven, but the textbooks did introduce the concepts of diversity. Like inclusion wasn't a thing just yet, but it did, introduce those concepts. So I got thirsty to learn more about what this diversity / investigation kind of component looked like in a workplace, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, or government. And that was the introduction to me that there could be a whole career that I could, develop if I got my degree and then, focus my attention towards a career in HR.
Wow. So, Professor Lou, what kind of courses we have that reflect that, teach all these things about discrimination and ethnic? Is that part of the courses, or it's something that we learn as extracurricular activities?
Sure. So we at MPA, PPA, we have a list of concentrations, and Jamal's human resource management specialization is definitely one of the hottest specializations at PPA. And we also have criminal justice policy and administration, we have emergency management, and we have a law and public management, we have management and operation, and we have a public policy analysis and urban affairs. Now you ask me how this concept and the practice of diversity has been integrated in one specialization or all specializations. And my response would be all, because this is actually one of the things that sets John Jay apart from many other programs in the United States. Because here, like Jamal was saying, diversity is not only a concept, but also is a vision, for the future. It's something that we really, really celebrate. So we wanted to move people to be successful in their next chapter of a career, like Jamal, and we wanted to equip them with the skills and knowledges to understand what exactly diversity means, the benefits and being diverse and being equitable in our governance, in our society, the benefits that comes with being equitable and a diverse society.
Wow. You know what? I did my master's in public administration, I would say 25 years ago. And they didn't have nothing about those courses about, not even integrated in the classes. We never ever discuss about discrimination and nothing, nothing. It's like a foreign concept in a master's. But now with the new, new era, I guess, but now it's a topic that we need to discuss and make sure that students are aware. A few days ago, I was talking with a student, and she was asking me to have more training in workshops in microaggression, for example. Which is it's not really a new concept, but few people talk about microaggression in the schools. It's very difficult to understand. Do you, Jamal, do you have these kinds of conversations with the people in your work, or how it works?
Absolutely. Microaggressions, those are those, petty slights. For people who don't know, it's the small kind of things, comments that people say, things.
And it's difficult to say this is the microaggression.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's not as clear as like, I hate you because you are a member of this group, right? It's the small things. So maybe, someone meets someone who is English as a second language, and they say something like, oh, they assume that the person doesn't understand English at all, right? So they make some kind of comment that's kind of off the cuff. The intention might be not to harm someone, but the receiver receives that as that's directly related to, my background, my race, my ethnicity. So on a daily basis, we get those types of kind of petty slights that employees struggle with. And the question becomes, is it something that I can file a complaint for? Is it something that's related to the concept of unconscious bias, something that we all struggle with, something that we all have, right? So how do I deal with that? So those are often, the things that we deal with in HR. And quite frankly, it's the small things that if they're left unchecked, they evolve later on into big things, a big argument, or now a more clear incident where someone definitely believes that their race, gender, sex, disability, was related to their overall workplace experience. And that's something that we would definitely have an obligation under the law and under our policy to investigate.
And I have a curiosity. Is this something that is very common conversations that it's in the workplace, or this is just occasional about the microaggressions? So most people, it's easy to complain when it's something very obvious, because microaggression is not really obvious.
Very true. And it's not necessarily a thing that doesn't happen frequently. I want to say that it happens more frequently than we think. I've been on the receiving end of that. You know, my name is Jamal Lopez. So I think back to a time a couple of years ago when I was working for another company, and I would speak to people frequently over the phone. And one day I had an opportunity to go to that department and introduce myself. Now, they had always talked to me over the phone. So when I got there, one of the guys said, "Oh, you're Black." And I was like, yeah. And he was like, "Well, I didn't know what to expect, because like Jamal and then Lopez, and you didn't sound Black over the phone." Right. So, you know, I didn't assume any malintent. But when I got back to my desk, I said to myself, what did he mean by I didn't sound Black over the phone? Right. These are things that people say often. And if you dig deeper into it, it's related to a stereotypical thought or belief system that we might have that says certain people sound a certain way, or certain people do a certain thing, or they act in a certain behavior, right? So these are the microaggressive things that sometimes kind of frequently pop up for all of us in our daily work lives.
Wow. That's interesting.
I would follow up on that. I think, you know, Jamal made a very good point. Many of the things that we do experience, they are implicit, you know, and I think one of the things this program has a strength in is to train people to detect those implicit biases, right? And to be, you know, sensitive and to be aware of those issues. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is the advocacy this program promotes. I give you one example. Jamal mentioned the gender, you know, and we have Women in Public Services. This is an organization that geared toward the gender studies and equal treatment of, you know, all types of people in workplace. And they not only invite guest speakers to campus, and also they hire students to do research and connected with employees, agencies from the New York City government. And they do tons of advocacy group for gender-related issues. So I think the program is not only teaching people the skills to detect, but also to give instill passion and advocacy for issues that Jamal was talking about.
That's excellent. You know, teach people how to go on, talk about themselves about different issues. Jamal, going back to the school, do you remember activities that you did in the school that you can relate with your new job, with your job? How long have you been in this job, Jamal?
So I've been doing this work for 12 plus years.
Wow. So do you remember your childhood when you were in the masters?
I do, because we're talking about like 20 years ago.
Wow.
We're talking about a long time ago. But I do remember one thing that was an introduction to me in one of the courses, and I don't remember exactly which course it was. It might have been an HR administration course or something along those lines. But I had to give a presentation. And, you know, it was a presentation in front of the whole class. And I forget what my topic was. It was something business related, you know, to the workplace. And I was nervous. I was scared because it's not in my nature to speak in front of a lot of people. But I did my studying, I got myself together, and I did that presentation. And the class was actually very enthusiastic about the presentation because it was something that everyone could relate to. And that was the opening up of my mind to tell me that, you know, as a young minority who grew up in, you know, in poverty in Brooklyn in the projects, that there's an opportunity for me that exists out there. And maybe it's the thing that I'm definitely afraid of, which is public speaking, that I could possibly find a career path in. So after I graduated, I joined a group called Toastmasters International, which is a public speaking organization. And I tried to brush up on my public speaking, and I did that for many years to the point where I became president of one of the local Toastmaster chapters there in the city. And my career started to evolve because of the public speaking that John Jay introduced to me while I was a student, right? Because once I started speaking in front of people, talking about diversity and inclusion and equal employment opportunity for all and those types of sensitive issues, I realized that I, number one, as Professor Liu pointed out, I had a passion for what I was talking about. And I was able to make connections with employees, you know, better than a lot of people who were doing it before me when I was at certain companies. And that connection just started my career to just go on a trajectory that was tremendous, which ultimately led me to where I am today, which is a career that I'm very happy with, and a career that I'm viewed as a subject matter expert in, and I do public speaking on a national level and a local level. So I'm very thankful for, you know, my experience back at John Jay, because without that, I would have never even had thought of myself as someone that could speak in front of a large group of people.
That's and we are very proud of you. We are very, very proud of you. All the things that you do. We just happy that you are John Jay's son. So Professor Liu, I used to wondering, one of the questions that the students have always is what they have to come to wanting to be a student, what they have to bring on the table, you know, what knowledge they have to be part of the masters on public administration. What things they need to do?
Well, so I think when we admit people, we look at a number of things, you know, your GPA and academic performance and your recommendations and your personal statements. And I can tell you what we look for, you know, in terms of what they bring to John Jay. What we look for is particularly, we look for people who is committed to public services. You know, this is a field may not give you $1 million paycheck, you know, and this is a field that could encounter a lot of political contentions. And this is also a field where people may or may not understand the positions or the difficult choices that you are making, you know. So what do we deal with them? You know, and I think one of the things that carry people through all these challenges is their commitment, deep commitment to public services. If they are passionate, like, you know, like Jamal was saying, they're passionate about the work they're doing, and they can see meanings from the work they're doing. And these are the things particularly expressed in their personal statements. My co-director, Professor Dan Feldman, and I, and as well as our admission staff, we spend tons of time individually review everybody's application. And we pay special attention to admission process, because we wanted to, you know, as I said, not necessarily looking for, say, academically superb, you know, students, but we wanted to have a good combination in terms of qualities, and particularly we're looking for people who are committed to public services. And you know, the public service values in John Jay, we often identify ourselves, as I mentioned before, you know, accountabilities, diversities, and integrities, inclusiveness, justice. You know, these are the public service values that we hold dear in our hearts. So I guess, you know, that's the commitment that's very important. But I also would like to say people who fare well in our programs are those who come with some sort of idea as to who I want to be, you know, who I want to be, and from day one. And that's why at the orientation, student orientation, Professor Dan Feldman and I often say, you know, look, you just got admitted into our program. But we ask you to think about one thing now, and that thing is who you want to be, where you want to be in 3 years or 2 years or 3 years when you graduate.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people say, why? You know, I just got admitted. You want me to think about that? Actually, yes. Yes, because it will help you choose the specializations that you will be interested in, help your course planning, and help your internship, you know, help your career path. You kind of have to think about that so that everything you do in this 2 or 3 years will make sense, come together, form a synergy that will be beneficial for your career.
That's very good that you push them to start thinking about the future. So Jamal, so we're talking about the students who just began to the masters. I would like you to send us a message for students who are already in the masters and soon in some months they will be out in the market. What would be the message for them?
So I think the main message that I would like to share is, stay committed, to what you want to do. As Professor Lou said, think about where you want to see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years. So think about that. And then be willing to pivot sometimes. And by that, I mean, you might have a plan or a goal in mind. And maybe your overall goal is, I want to help people, right? I want to do something that's going to put some good back into the world. I want to help people. But at the end of the day, I want to, have a decent salary so I can provide for myself and my family as well. And sometimes we think, though, it has to be this particular organization, right? So it has to be Google, an HR position there, where you might apply to Google and maybe you don't get in, or maybe you get close, and maybe there's another company that will afford you the ability to meet that passion and achieve that overall goal, but it's not a big name like Google. Why not be willing to pivot there and take your talents there? Because ultimately you can still find a sense of self-fulfillment as long as you're doing the work that you're passionate about and committed to. So be willing to pivot, because life is not always a straight line. Sometimes it's, you have to go here to get there. Sometimes you have to take a step back or a step to the side to get where you ultimately want to go. Be willing to do that. Be forgiving of yourself if you make mistakes. There's no such thing as a failed person. There might be something that you failed at. That doesn't mean that you're a failure. So take all that information in, use it to give you more energy to keep pushing ahead. And you'll get to where you ultimately would like to be, and maybe even farther.
So they have to be explored. You don't know where you're going, but you need to go where you want to be. That's life, really life. You have a goal, but you have to be able to move through this goal in order to be where you have to be. It is. And thank you very much, Professor Lou, Mr. Lopez, Jamal Lopez. I'm so happy that you're here, and very proud of our professor. She's amazing. She has published books and articles, and she's highly dedicated to her students. So your last word, Professor, Lou, I'm sorry, Elaine, Lou.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Jamal, for taking the time with us. And I think one of the strengths, as well as the things that John Jay wanted to do more, is to connect with alumni better, and to have a community around the John Jay College formed by people like you. So I hope you will, keep looking back at us and support John Jay, support MPA in our future efforts. And, we look forward to hear more about you and your success. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jamal, some words?
No, this is just
some wisdoms for us.
This is just a wonderful experience. It does my heart good to look back, and think of, part of the reason why I've been able to, be somewhat happy in my career is because of the discipline that John Jay taught me, because of some of the connections. I think back to some of the professors who spoke to me after class, because I was that student who was always asking questions and curious about where life was going to lead me. And there were a number of professors who took time to say something that's positive, or took time to tell me, hey, look, you need to come up in this area. You're able to do it, but you got to study a little bit harder. You got to be a little bit more focused. All of that stuff matters. It makes a tremendous difference. I would just tell the students, keep on your path. So proud of you. Keep doing the good work because the world needs you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. So I will see you in another session of Power Graduate Power. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Use this. 1 second.
All right. So I guess we are officially done, right?
Yeah, we are done. Let me put my glasses because I want to, I don't know, I want to mix to make